dear people of Ambazonia, our fellow brave warriors of our liberation movement, accept liberation greetings from me, Comrade John Akuro, this Tuesday, the 18th of March, 2025. I'm delighted to be here again. It's true that I actually promised that it was going to be 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and 10 p.m. Amber Time, but from the look of things, it's now we are now beginning at midnight, literally midnight Amber Time, and 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Apologies for that due to some logistic challenges that we are beginning this show late. But however, I know if you are not live when you get up from bed, if you're on ground zero or in other parts of the world where it's already night, where it's already the deep of the night, you'll be able to watch this very important show. And most importantly, I'm going to urge those of you who are on right now and who are watching it live, please share the link of this show as much as you can. I'd like to extend hearty salutes to all of you who so feverishly shared the link of the first show we had earlier in the day that was regarding the consumption of some deadly substance in the name of drug called Caillou. And so I want to really thank all of you for your participation. This education, or call it information campaign, is very essential for our liberation movement, and our participation, all of us, is so important. I mean, it's so momentous in taking us forward. That is why I will continually call on you all, please, whenever you watch, share the link, share and share and share as much as possible, because the more people we reach, the more we're able to spread the information that we are passing out there, and this in turn helps to strengthen the fundamentals of our liberation movement. And I want to reassert here with all my strength that the fundamentals of our liberation movement remain very strong. I mean, very strong. Sometimes you hear them sit back and make noise about, oh, normalcy has returned. There are just some pockets of resistance in a few places. They tell you that this thing is even a Bamenda struggle. There's nothing anywhere. The other day, you heard the Fako Mountain Lions in Fako, that is in the headquarters of the southern Cameroons, roaring out there. You heard what was happening in Bui, you heard what happened in Biame, you heard what happened in Oku, you heard what happened in Gokutunjia, you heard what happened in Kejom, Keku, in that all over Ambazonia, there are a lot of things going on. From the civil society point of view, because I always say, I'm a journalist, so whatever I come first, I can raise other aspects of news of what is happening on the ground. But from the civil society viewpoint, because I'm more involved with the civil society aspect of our liberation movement. From the civil society viewpoint, we are holding it very tight. Of course, yesterday was Monday, and across Ambazonia, every place was dead. On Women's Day, the 8th of March, shy of some greedy women, especially who were shipped from out of Ambazonia and brought in to be shared bread and sardine for them to, spoil their names and the likes. It was a horrible boycott. My people of Ambazonia, we are on track, and I like each and every one of us to encourage themselves. Begin by encouraging yourselves, then encourage those around you. Congratulate yourselves and congratulate those around you. Tell them we are doing good, we are keeping it up, but we need to work harder. We need to do more. We need to do more, because I tell you, verily, this 20,000 or this 2025, this year 2025 is going to be a very determining year in our liberation movement. Because don't forget, La République du Cameroon will soon unravel. And so, talking about that La République du Cameroon, I just had this piece of news coming up when I was getting into the studio. Of course, it's without a lot of surprise that one nonagenarian is even gone beyond nonagenarian now. He's becoming a centenarian. This is Nyak Jefenji Marcel at 91, re-elected this day, this 18th of March, as president of the Senate of La République du Cameroon. Yesterday, it was a turn of Kavae Yege Jibril. I think perhaps it was even still today. A turn of Kavae Yege Jibril another senile fellow, who was also re-elected Speaker of the Assembly of La République du Cameroon. And, it just tells you what kind of society that really is. It tells you what kind of society that is. Because I've told you 1,001 times, we never had to belong. We don't have to belong, and we don't ever have any reason to bother ourselves belonging. There is also some news concerning one buffoon they call John Gute, but I won't release that one now because the appropriate time to release it is right ahead, because it factors very much into the subject matter of our discussion today. Folks, don't forget, the subject matter of our discussion at this point in time is about what France, the poisonous peace in quotes that France is preparing to offer to the people of the southern Cameroons. And again, I always say don't forget, because if you forget, you may be taken for a ride. If you forget, you may get up one morning believing that Lucifer can qualify to go to heaven, that he wants to repent so they can go to heaven. Because that's who France is. France is the cancer that has brought us to where we are today. France is the cancer that has destroyed the growth, the economic prosperity, and destroyed the lives of tens of thousands of southern Cameroonians. So you should never ever forget that. And so before we get into the beef of our discussion, I want to share this thought again. Take note, each time you click to share the link of a piece like this one or the previous ones that are produced here, that helps in sensitizing, educating, and creating greater awareness among our people. You are doing exactly what Plato is saying in this piece, that knowledge is power when applied with wisdom to uplift yourself and others. Mark this, to uplift not just others, but to uplift yourself too. You begin by using it to uplift yourself, and then you make sure that you get it to others so that they too are uplifted. Because in our circumstance, in our case, we are locked in a battle for our very existence, and therefore information sharing is absolutely paramount. My dear people of Ambazonia, I want to open the subject matter of our discussion right now. We're even not going to have any transitions because this subject matter is so important, and I really don't want to get attention off even for 1 second. So if you're just joining, you're on the JMA connections, settle down, fasten your seatbelt, get a glass of water. If it's something else that you are taking, get ready and let's go. My people of Ambazonia, there is some word of wisdom among the African people that says that no matter how heavy the horns are, they cannot be above, they cannot be heavier than the head of the cow that must bear them. Simply put, the horns can never be too heavy for the head of the cow that must bear them. As Southern Cameroonians living in this generation, it is our burden to make sure we deliver a free, independent, and prosperous Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonia, to the next generation. We cannot afford to pass these struggles, to pass these difficulties, these challenges on to the next generation. We cannot afford to go to our graves and sit back there and watch our people continue to live in slavery and servitude, continue to be reduced to subhumans, continue to be treated like animals. We can't afford that. I've said here a couple of times, we should not fight this liberation movement like people who believe that we are absolutely going to enjoy the goodies of that freedom. Because if we think in that fashion, we will not put in our all. We'll be economizing our energy and our everything so that we will use it to enjoy that freedom. There are countries that we are living in. People fought, were ready to die, and indeed even did die for the freedoms that we enjoy today. We have to fight selflessly to ensure we live a free, independent, strong, and prosperous Southern Cameroons for generations upon generations of our people to come. That is why I've said here a couple of times, I might be talking here today. Those who are swearing he needs to die, he needs to be killed, tomorrow, next tomorrow, a few days, you can hear, boom, Bakuru is gone, he's no more. Trust me, there must be some other person or persons more virulent than myself that must rise to pick up the mantle in my field, because we have several areas in this liberation movement to continue the charge and ensure that we have freedom. We will not stop and be crying and be mourning and telling ourselves it is finished. That's why people like Molanjo Litumbe, when we smile on their faces, because they are counting on us. That's why people like Barrister Ben Muna screamed, let the youth fight. Let them bloody fight. The future is theirs. Mine is behind me. I can die tomorrow. And he died with a smile on his face. That whatever the case, those children are fighting. And they are going to stop at nothing until they ensure a free and independent, strong and prosperous Southern Cameroons. Recently, the French ambassador, Thierry Marchand, and don't always forget that Thierry Marchand is not just a diplomat. He's a retired 5-star general in the French army. He was sent to La République du Cameroun in Yaoundé. And that Thierry Marchand and the French have spent the last 8 years doing everything within their powers to ensure that La République du Cameroun massacres as many Southern Cameroonians as possible. I've always said it, that the genocide unfolding in the Southern Cameroons is French-sponsored. It is not like La République du Cameroun actually is fighting a French proxy war in Ambazonia. And so after 8 good years of blocking every opportunity for meaningful, internationally mediated peace talks, the French ambassador recently visited Bamenda, and he didn't go alone. He went in the company of some other diplomats from the European Union to tell our people that France is now ready to offer us peace, that France is now ready to broker peace, that France is now ready to work very hard to ensure that the war ends. And he even went ahead to say the war will end very soon, very fast. Déjà entendu, right? Now, France is the perpetrator. France is the genocide enabler. France is the one providing La République du Cameroun with all the weaponry that they are using to decimate the people in our land. France is the one motivating La République du Cameroun and telling them never to go to any internationally mediated peace talk, because they stand no chance legally to win over the Southern Cameroons. Then the same France now wants to position itself and claims that they will be an honest broker. How can you be judge and party? And now follow this. He had hardly said that France is coming in and will work very hard to ensure peace. He already started telling us what will happen. He already started telling us what they are ready to give. The same language we've heard from La République du Cameroun. Give to a country that went into a union with them. A union of 2 states, equal in status. Today, one state is talking about giving something to the other state. It talks about regionalization. Now, I'd like us to understand what this whole nonsense of regionalization is all about. It's no different from the decentralization that Mr. Paul Biya's government promises 2004. Listen well. I said well. That since 2004. Today we're in 2025. That is 21 years ago. 21 years ago, the government of La République du Cameroon, Mr. Paul Biya, was supposed to ensure what is called devolution of powers to the regional, to the various regions. That's what had to happen in 2004. Because I hear some people talking about devolution of powers and all of those things. They absolutely don't even know a thing. They absolutely don't even understand what this means. Because they bring too many words. Pour before them. They know that for some of them, they are not very educated. So they will get confused and think that these words mean different things. Whereas they all mean the same thing. Because this regionalization that I'm talking about is not different from the decentralization that Mr. Paul Biya proposed, or that Mr. Paul Biya offered, not only to the people of Southern Cameroon, to his entire country, since 2004. 21 years after, they have not gone anywhere. 21 years after, they cannot devolve any powers. Why? Because they can never devolve powers. The most beautiful woman in the world can only give you what she has, never what she doesn't have. Because La République du Cameroun, a province of France, operates like France, they don't believe in devolution of powers. They believe in the centralization of powers. Centralization of powers. The central government is all powerful and decides for everybody right in the nooks and crannies of the country. But our own colonial heritage was Anglo-Saxonism, where they believe in doing what? Where they believe in power sharing, where they believe in actually making sure that the local governments, that the regions or the states have more powers than the central government to take care of their own responsibilities, because they live in their communities. They better appreciate their needs. They know what can change the dynamics of the people in their community better than somebody who is 500 miles away. So it's like you live in Furawa, you know your relatives in Furawa, and somebody in Yaoundé who has never been even to Bamenda sits there to decide what will be priority development initiative or development project for you in Furawa, or for you in Ebamut, or for you in Njungo, or for you in Idabato, or for you in Idibanyanga, or for you in Badu, or in Buba, or in Ekona Lelu. My dear people of Ambazonia. So this is what Thierry Marchand is talking about. Regionalization. That is, while the Federalists sat somewhere were saying, no, he's talking about when the French came in, they were talking about a return to the federal system. The French don't believe in federalism. They don't practice it in their country. They are not practicing it. So they cannot encourage you to practice it. Why? Because the French believe that every natural resource on our territory belongs to them. Because the French believe that when they want to take those natural resources, they don't have to find themselves negotiating with anyone aside of the senior prefect that they will appoint in Yaoundé or in the national capitals. So therefore, if they get to that kind of situation where the people at local level have a say over the natural resources in their land, have a say about what happens in their land, no, it will be very complicated for France to achieve their aim of permanently impoverishing the countries. So therefore, the French will never ever favor anything like the kind of decentralization that was put there in 2004. Because if the French wanted it, that would have gone into effect. And for the sake of those who are not yet aware, I want to remind each and every one of us that the French were at the origin of the precipitous end of the federal experience. Why? Because towards the end of the 60s and beginning of the 70s, they discovered oil in the southern Cameroons. And they knew that they were going to meet people in the southern Cameroons, like the late Mwale Penja, who will ask about oil, who will want to know the agreement put in place for the exploration and exploitation of the oil, who want to know how the community where the oil is found will benefit from it, who want to know how the country's economic development will benefit from it. And so the French did not want that. They wanted unfettered access to this resource. So they had to tell Ahidjo to quickly, and using all kind of underhand tactics, to put an end to the federal system. What has changed today that will cause the French to suddenly imagine that they should go back to federalism, when they have used parrots like Professor Maurice Kamto to say le Cameroun a déjà fait son histoire, when they have shouted on all rooftops that Cameroon can never go back in history, they have already swallowed us, they have swallowed. When we heard from Paul Biya's own lips, talking to Mo Ibrahim in Paris, that the intention was to assimilate the people of the southern Cameroons, what has suddenly happened? I think France has changed. The same French who were chased away from Niger, who could not adjust their attitude in order to stay, cannot change when it comes to southern Cameroons. The same French who were chased away from Mali, who could not adjust their approach to things in order to stay, will think differently about the southern Cameroons. The same French who were chased out of Burkina Faso and could not even pretend to look at things differently and claim, no, we will have to consult you people now to get it in order to stay. The same French who are being chased out of Senegal, who are still unable to tell the Senegalese, now we're ready to do business with you as equals, will change their thoughts on the southern Cameroons. The same French who know that after Alassane Dramane Ouattara, the future of their stay in Cote d'Ivoire is uncertain. Yet they are not ready to change. They will change for about southern Cameroons. My dear people of Ambazonia, only a daydreamer will get up one morning and think that because it has rained too much on the tiger will lose its spots. Oh no. That's why an African proverb says, no matter how much rain, be it torrential, pounds on a tiger, it can never wash off its spots. That tiger will remain the tiger that you saw, exactly as you see it. The French will never change. Some people have suggested that why don't we tell France that, okay, no problem, come in, let's discuss, and then let's see how tomorrow you can do business with us as equals. France doesn't believe in that. They believe that they had bought us over like property from the British Crown, and so we belong to them, and the only way they let us go is that we squeeze La République du Cameroun to a point where they vomit us out, and they can't hold it anymore. Don't ever think that you can appeal to the moral conscience of those who don't have a conscience. France, La République du Cameroun, they don't have consciences. No, they don't have. So stop thinking that you can appeal to the moral conscience of people who don't have those consciences. They don't have them, they don't have them. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. And so therefore, away from federalism, others came and said, oh no, now that the French are coming in, they are talking about the creation of the post of vice president. Oh, vice president. So that they can accommodate the people of the southern Cameroons with the position of vice president. The people of the southern Cameroons who are eternal assistants. And what would they achieve? They've had the position of prime minister from 1992 to the present date. What have you achieved? And just so you know, John Ngu Foncha, that you see on my screen was Vice President of the Federal Republic of Cameroon. He was Vice President of the Federal Republic of Cameroon, while El-Haj Amadou Ahidjo was President of the Federal Republic of Cameroon. What was John Foncha's role? What is the role of a vice president when the president is there? What influence can a vice president have when the president is there? All powerful, flying over his head and dealing with the cabinet. In a normal dispensation, you will feel that a prime minister, head of government, will have greater definition than vice president. Because look at it. You see, in the US system, for example, the Secretary of State, who heads the Department of State, has a well-defined portfolio, well-defined job, and all whatnot as a head of the US diplomacy. But the vice president is vice and will only carry out assignments delegated to him or her by the president. If the president decides not to delegate anything and decides to eclipse you, you are eclipsed. The only thing you do is wait for the situation. If luck shines on you, when something happens to the president, then you can start having a voice. That is if they don't put in place stopgap measures to ensure that even if that happens, you don't assume. Like it happened to Solomon Tandemuna, when they had to twist the constitution to make the prime minister and not the speaker of the assembly the constitutional successor of the president of the Republic of Cameroon. So John Foncha that you see on my screen, that's him descending there with his cars. He was vice president. What did he achieve? Nothing. Ahidjo made a fool of Dr. John Foncha. I mean, a big fool. Because when Foncha saw things the way things were going, Ahidjo only had any discussion to have with the prime minister of the south of West Cameroon at the time. Foncha was ignored. Foncha was sidelined. When Foncha wanted to talk and said, "My people," Ahidjo asked him, "What people?" And at the same time, Ahidjo was working very hard to remove the ground under the chair on which Foncha was seated. That's how eventually Solomon Tandemuna now became PM, ended up also as vice president. And as vice president, what did Solomon Tandemuna also achieve? Nothing. I say nothing. And that is why when it pleased Ahidjo, when they decided to conduct the falsehood, the scam called a referendum in 1972 to end the federal system, they decided by the same token to abolish the position of vice president. It's a redundant position with nothing in it. Nothing in it. Absolutely nothing. And so the French always operate on the premise of something that Napoleon the Great, of course he was the Great. Take note that although he was French, but he actually came from the Italian island of Corsica. That Napoleon Bonaparte, the French, what he said, we created a Legion of Honor. That men are governed by toys. And so all you need to do, give them the toys. Let them be busy on those toys while you do the real thing. That's why you have those medals. Say this man has been given a medal, that has been given a medal. That's why you now have what they call sinecure position. You don't understand what that means? Sinecure is S-I-N-E as in elephant, C as in Canada, U as in umbrella, R as in Robert, and the E again as in elephant. Sinecure positions. Sinecure means those positions just meant to gratify you. There is nothing in it. No powers, Nothing for you to bring to the table. Just sit there. Those are toys. And Paul Biya himself said it. That he thinks he should have just about 10 ministers. That's why he told Titus Ezua. Or that's what he told Atangana Meba. Or that's what he told Marafa Amidu Yaya. That is just about 10 ministers. The rest are civil servants to whom he has just given some little signature and some place to sit there and be feeling important. Sinecure positions. That's what they have done to the southern Cameroonians with empty skulls, calling themselves today our elite. I mean, those members of the CPDM crime syndicate. So vice president is another sinecure position. And so when they say it, they say, yeah, you go towards regionalization, they create the post of vice president, and then they say, yeah, anglophone, deviens vice-président de la République. Paul Biya has been president of the CPDM, of the Central Committee of the CPDM forever. And he had a mind to pick someone for Angwafo of blessed memory as first national vice president of the CPDM. I had the pleasure to interview for Angwafo on at least 3 occasions, and I asked him the last time he ever had any consultation with Paul Biya. And he confessed all 3 times he did not even know the direct phone number of Mr. Paul Biya. He did not know. Several times he tried to seek audience, was never given the opportunity to meet with Paul Biya, but he was the first national vice president. When you are getting into a bargain, know what you are asking for. My people of Ambazonia. I talked a while ago about the post of prime minister. Therefore, I say at least had a portfolio because they say prime minister, head of government. And then, on the day Paul Biya is appointing his government, you appoint the prime minister at 5 p.m. And then he waits about 1 hour and 15 minutes. He's now appointing the rest of the government, says, sur proposition du Premier Ministre. Oh. So when he appointed the prime minister at 5 p.m., he did not see him. 1 hour after, the prime minister had time to do consultations, to carry out background checks and everything on the people he wants to put as ministers, and forms a whole government within an hour, and sends the thing to the president of the republic to appoint. You see the folly in all of that, right? You see the folly in all of that, right? Now look at it. You have someone there by name Joseph John Gute. That is prime minister. Look at him there. No, let's change channel. Look at him there. I can't see what is happening there. Mr. Paul Biya just passed by the prime minister, barely gave him the tip of the hand, and was looking elsewhere. Really, by the time I got to the prime minister, I was already looking at the secretary general. And mind you, the secretary general at the presidency of the republic is not a member of the cabinet. He is an aide to the president in the presidency of the republic, an aide to the president at the presidency of the republic. The government is headed by the prime minister. So the secretary general to the president of the republic is not under the prime minister, head of government. He is not part of the government. He is an aide to the president of the republic. The supposed head of government is the prime minister, who should run government activities. This tells you, therefore, that this secretary general is ascribed, just like the prime minister also has a secretary general, to his services. And so this is a president. Comes back from a 1-month stay out of the country. Barely notices his prime minister. Barely gives him the tip of his fingers. and then focuses on the Secretary General, who really will talk there forever, and the Prime Minister looking on like a schoolboy. Look at it again. So you see, I just let it flow again. So you capture exactly what I'm talking about. You see how they make a fool of your Prime Minister. How they make a fool of him. Because the president has been out for over a month. Comes back and is asking the Secretary General what was going on in the country in his absence. How the country fared when he was not there. Who did what? Who did not do what? The Prime Minister is standing there, so-called head of government. Why? The reason is simple. Because he is a Southern Cameroonian. Because he does not belong. Because he is put there just to fill a gap. He is put there just to occupy space. Because it is a sinecure position. Because he has to be dignified. That is done deliberately. He has to be dignified, ridiculed, reduced to rubble, so that he loses even his personal self-esteem. And that's why you see here, look at it again. You look at, he can't even look at the president in the eyes. The president is shaking his hands, but his focus is on the Secretary General. Look at that. Poor John Gute has bent his head onto his forehead, is almost touching the ground. Biya barely has time to give him the tip of his fingers, but his attention is focused on the Secretary General, Ferdinand Gongo. This is body language. This is communication. This is message enough to the people of the Southern Cameroons. How else do you want to be told that you don't belong? How else do you want to learn that the only day you really become free, the only day you really become emancipated, is when you absolutely kick La République Cameroon out of your land? Another occasion, take another look. This is yet another occasion. Now look at the Prime Minister. Oh, I think they say, but an advantage. See, the Prime Minister finally rises, lifts his head up, and will spend time smiling. I mean, from ear to ear, with his nose almost coming to touch his forehead, hoping to attract the attention of the president, who remains focused in his interaction with the Secretary General, who is just his aide. Just his aide. And then, some people sit and talk about vice president, prime minister, or devolution of powers, or how you call regionalization, decentralization, or whatever you call it again. You call it again what? Special status and all of that. They don't even know what's in that special status. This is all the prime minister's presence in that system is meant to achieve. Brainwash the people of the Southern Cameroons, make you totally stupid, and tell the world that I am one of them and I am saying this is who we are. Watch.
The then Southern Cameroons was given two options. The British said you are going to achieve independence, either A, by joining your brothers of East Cameroon, who had become independent in 1960, or two, by joining the Federation of Nigeria. The then Southern Cameroons was given...
So you see that? This is all. That is the only role that John Gute has to play in there. Right ahead there you will see a continuation of this kind of role. That is all. Only to be used when the occasion presents itself to remind his people that they have to be slaves, to remind his people that they don't have to think out of the box, to remind his people that your position is sealed, you are second-rate citizens, that is where you belong, don't protest, hang in there, that is where you have to be. That is the only role he plays. That's the only role you will play. If you allow yourself to be fooled by France, my goodness. Listen, folks, the French today, more than ever before, know that where they are in a very dire situation. The US government that has generally given France backing in the exploits in Africa has changed policy since the Biden administration. Because I said this, some people said, oh no, it's because, no. Since the Biden administration, this policy had changed. The approach to things had changed. The American government learned from what happened in Cote d'Ivoire, when Sarkozy pulled America by the nose to go and impose Alassane Dramane Ouattara there. They learned their lessons from what Sarkozy did to them, to cause them to go and fight his revenge war against Gaddafi in Libya. Look at what Libya is today. That is why US President Joe Biden, the American government for that matter, stood by and watched the French being humiliated out of Mali. They were also present. They decided, no, we will leave too. That's why the US government stood by and watched France being humiliated out of Burkina Faso. That is why the US government stood by and watched France being humiliated out of Niger. They are also standing by and watching France being humiliated out of Senegal. Listen to the president of Senegal, the young president of Senegal the other day, reminding the French that by the end of 2025, all their troops, all their bases in Senegal must have been closed. That the last of their troops must have left Senegalese territory. France knows that the dawn in Cote d'Ivoire is not far. This is the same thing that's happened in Central African Republic. Russia has literally kicked France out of the Central African Republic. Chad is on the line. The young man in Chad, the young Debbie in Chad, no longer listens to France as much as they thought he would continue to do. And so the French are in turmoil. And now the French are looking at Gabon. That's why you see the French did what they did in Gabon. Favored a coup in Gabon, a palace coup in Gabon, and tried to see how to accommodate the situation, play around, and finally they're about to install Oligui Nguema in Gabon to continue the exploitation of Gabon. The French are not leaving. That's the same thing they are planning in La République du Cameroon. And they know that the situation in La République du Cameroon is very complicated and very dicey. And so, La République du Cameroon proper is going to be in tatters in a few months. And so, therefore, they need to set the people of the southern Cameroon, keep them asleep, so that they don't find themselves fighting a war in the Cameroon on two fronts. So that La République du Cameroon will take 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, finish their crisis, and then come back and continue their genocidal campaign in the southern Cameroons. Because the French are going to do exactly, they are going to be struggling to do exactly what they did in Chad and what they're doing in Gabon, in La République du Cameroon. They know that given the current dispensation in Washington with President Donald J. Trump, they are not going to be able to use the United States of America to impose their will in places. So they have to turn to the next page. And I said in a discussion with Christians that don't forget, and I said this from the start of this liberation movement, that we are up against the diplomatic powerhouse of the world. The French never have the strength or the military manpower to win a war. But they depend on a system of alliances. They are always so proactive, they're always the first to start flying from one country to another, saying, you see, we need to concern, we need to work together. If we don't work together, we are all going to die together. Because if I'm defeated here, it's going to affect not only me, but the rest of this. And so that is why the other European Union ambassadors present in La République du Cameroon could find themselves accompanying the French ambassador in Bamenda to come and tell you that, oh, as you see, the European Union is definitely going to be behind this, and they will soon be telling us, oh, if you are not in agreement, you know, you are going to be blacklisted, you are going to be up, you are going to be down, and nonsense. So those of you who are talking about vice president or whatnot, look at, this is Ngongo here. This is Ngongo here, out on the field. This job he's doing is supposed to be the job of the prime minister, so-called head of government. Because Ngongo is an aide to the president of the republic. The head of government, at least on paper, is Joseph John Gute. But this is Ngongo on the field, playing the role that the prime minister ought to play. Going to cut ribbons on road projects and all that thing. Commanding the minister of public works. And that's what you see. French language newspapers are wondering, is Ngongo already out on campaigns? I'm showing these images because this visual will help you. You might have seen them, but you have not contextualized them. This is Ngongo right there. That is the Minister of Public Works of La République du Cameroon by him. That's Ngongo on the field, doing what the Prime Minister, head of government, is supposed to do. But they have so reduced John Gute to reading newspapers and watching television in his office at the Star Building. He has nothing to do. Nothing. The only time he has something to do is create for himself something to go and sit and talk about what is happening in Southern Cameroon and talk about how so much is being done for the people of the Southern Cameroons. That is the only thing he is allowed to talk about henceforth. That is Ngongo on the field. The Secretary General of the Presidency, that is him on the field, doing the job. Because when I talk, you may say Mbakwe is talking. But when I enable you see this, my intention is for you to open your own eyes, see for yourselves what I'm talking about and what lies right ahead of you. If you allow yourself to be fooled by the French, if you allow yourself to think that you should slow down in this liberation movement, this is Ngongo. That's him. Cutting the ribbon. That's the Secretary General of the Presidency. And the intention of this is because they are looking ahead. Ngongo, Chantal Bia's boyfriend, and Chantal have put their heads together and said, no, Mr. President, send Ngongo to the field to go and vie for you, to go and represent you. Since you are so weak, you can't go out there, to show you some visibility. But the intention is actually to make the people of La République du Cameroon become used to seeing Ngongo acting in this role, playing the role of head of government, playing the role of the president of the republic, playing the role of going to inspect projects, going to do this. Of course, we are seeing Traoré in Burkina Faso going around and inspecting projects. We are seeing the president of Senegal going around and inspecting projects. In La République du Cameroon, you are not seeing there, you are seeing Ngongo going around and inspecting projects. So to prepare the people of La République du Cameroon, so that at the end of the day, when they do what is called just some gentle palace coup, the people are already used to the guy. That is why at this point in time, it is so important for him to be out there, and the prime minister is so useless at this point in time because he's just a gap filler. That is what is reserved for you, my people of Southern Cameroons, in that sector. That is what is reserved for you. That is what is reserved for me. In my last video, I want to take one little break, and this is a humanitarian break, and we will continue. There is just so much ahead. Don't go away. In my last presentation, I showed us our sister who was needing help, and I said, please let us help her. Let's take 30 seconds again and listen to her, and I'll put this, please reach out to our sister and help her with this baby. Please, let's do. She lost her husband to this liberation movement, and let us not allow her to lose her child too when she has a chance to save his life. Just 3 million. I want to congratulate all those who are calling me from left and right, both on ground zero and in the diaspora, just after the first outing of today and the previous one, that they are already helping out.
Whether na 50 or na 100, I go glad. As long as it helps save her. And now somebody help me, even with the 100, I beg una put it to for prayer. I'll really appreciate any help I can get now. Thank you. Good.
So, I do not want us to be too long with our sister. I just want you to see her face. Some of you have already seen. You have seen maybe in WhatsApp groups and all of those. And I'll call on our sister Mbi Efundem Jane. When people send you whatever contributions they are making and the central channels that you can acknowledge, please do well to acknowledge. Do well to reach out there and thank them. That also encourages them to know that their hard-earned resources have reached you and will be used for the purpose of which it is intended. So you want to help our sister Efundem. You see there the SOS there, and that's her name, then B Efundem Jane, and that is her MTN mobile money 679487052. I'm going to leave it there on the call for quite a while, so that you want to assist her, don't hesitate to do so. That's why I'm leaving it out there, and then we will continue our conversation. And so, if you were doubting the role of the Prime Minister, listen again to Ambazonians quickly.
Digression là. Si on revient donc sur le gouvernement, le Premier ministre, selon vous, il doit continuer à pouvoir gérer cette équipe gouvernementale?
Est-ce que le Premier ministre gère l'équipe gouvernementale ou pas de quoi? Le Premier ministre est là pour remplir l'organigramme. Il gère quelle équipe gouvernementale? Il connaît qu'on nomme.
Did you hear that? Ambazonians says, Prime Minister continue to run the government. The Prime Minister runs what government? That's what he says. He says the Prime Minister is just there to fill a gap in the organizational chart. He handles nothing. He understands nothing. That's what Ambazonians is saying. Let's take a few bites from him again.
Ministre comment? Il peut proposer la nomination de quelqu'un. Je préfère même le président de l'Assemblée nationale, il gère même un budget. Ah, non, c'est le secrétaire général qui gère, mais au moins il y a un budget à l'Assemblée. Non, non, laissez-moi tout ça. C'est l'ensemble des choses que je dis qu'il faut corriger.
So did you hear that? The man, he denigrates the position so much so that the Prime Minister understands nothing, manages nothing. He asks this rhetorical question: can the Prime Minister even propose the appointment of someone? Can you get that? Prime Minister propose the head of government. Then the French come and tell you Vice President. It is even worse. The Prime Minister has a portfolio, but just that, the Secretary General under him, who is supposed to be his aide, Nangongo is the aide to the President of the Republic, Serafin Fouda, is rather more powerful than the Prime Minister, and is running the Prime Ministry with instructions from the presidency. That's why you see Ferdinand Gongo, Secretary General of the Presidency, giving instructions directly to ministers. Like he will write straight to the Minister of Communication. He will write straight to the Minister of Territorial Administration. He will write instructions straight to the Minister of Public Works. Of course, you saw him there with the Minister of Public Works on the field, inspecting things and all of those. I'm just going to die of laughter. You find him there, inspecting things. That's how you find that. That is what it is. You saw him at one point even write straight to the Director General of CRTV that has been overcoming plus the minister to say, do this, do that, do that. This is what it is. And so when this man, Thierry Marchand, goes to Bamenda and clads himself in our Togo, in our traditional attire, this visual is meant to tell you, I'm with you. Oh, I love you people so much. I'm going to stand with you. But this is the devil himself. These are the people who are at the origin of all the sufferings that we are having, all the suffering that we are facing. These are the people who are at the origin of the genocide being visited on our people. These are the people who are at the origin of the scorched earth policy being practiced on our people. The French scorched earth policy is a French strategy. The Solitary Republic du Cameroon, collective punishment. If they attack a French military truck in this area, burn the houses of everybody who lives around that area. They are accomplices. If they attack and kill a La République soldier in this village, burn down the entire village. Those are the French. This one, he's not your friend. No, Thierry Marchand is not your friend. It is their policy that's being implemented. It is their policy that has reduced John Gute to a schoolboy. Now look at this again. Again, my friend John Gute sits there and is watching. This is Ngongo. Ngongo is there like that in Douala, going to inaugurate. That he was in Douala to inaugurate the newly constructed center for the production of national identity cards in Douala. Still another job that ought to be commanded by the Prime Minister, head of government. And that's what you see. La République du Cameroon bloggers say there's a coup d'etat against the Prime Minister. Say the Prime Minister has been smashed and squeezed upon. The Prime Minister has totally been tinified. That it has been done, it has really been overdone to a point where even the citizens of La République themselves consider that it is exaggerated. They don't give a damn. Who are you? Look at it. That's Ferdinand Ngongo in Douala. The other day, he was with the Minister of Public Works. This time, he's with the governor of the Littoral, with the representative there, he's with the whatever in Douala, doing his thing. That is Ngongo, receiving military honors there, doing what the Prime Minister, head of government, is supposed to do. That's Ngongo. See, that's Ngongo, sitting there giantly. Like I said earlier, there is no other way to tell you that you are an object, that you are a thing, that you don't belong. Yet, you refuse to acknowledge. You refuse to hear. And while all that's happening, this John Gute, sitting in the office, waiting for an opportunity when microphones will be brought to him to insult, denigrate and belittle the people of the southern Cameroons and make lousy, stupid claims. Otherwise, he'll be reading newspapers all day and watching television and receiving dance groups from the southern Cameroons coming to dance and tell him that tell Paul Biya that we want him to be our candidate again. That is all. And do that. That is your Prime Minister. That is him. And you want to hear what citizens of La République du Cameroon think about this position of Prime Minister? Look at that thing there. I deliberately took this post, this from the post by the TGV Chuta. Look, they say, the first comment they read, le Premier ministre est simplement le premier à arriver dans la salle de réunion. Oh my goodness. Il arrive le premier pour nettoyer la salle de réunion et pour setter les chaises et les tables pour que les autres ministres puissent les utiliser. That is the first. It's just an insult. Another one says, il est le président de la République par procuration. Il fait ses tournées en tant que le président. That's they talk about Ngongo. But right under there, the last comment you see under there, and I'll have to shift the SOS for our sister Efundeng so that you have the opportunity to see what is under there very clearly. That last one who says his name is Electron Libre, he says, talking about the Prime Minister, he says, il est là pour faire croire aux anglophones qu'ils ont quelqu'un dans le gouvernement. That is to cause the people of the southern Cameroons to believe, to think that they have someone in the government. That's what that text says. The last text that underlined in red says, le Premier ministre est là pour faire croire aux anglophones qu'ils ont quelqu'un dans le gouvernement. This is what citizens of La République du Cameroon think about us. This ridicule has gone on for just so long, my people, that we should never think of perpetuating it. We can't fall to the French antics when at the same time we have powerful friends sitting in powerful offices across the world reiterating this to us. This is Tibonagi talking about Cameroon and talking about Canada. Imagine how supportive France will be of Southern Cameroonian, Ambazonian, of Southern Cameroonian right if the region spoke French and the Yaoundé regime was Anglophone instead of vice versa. France will be all in on Ambazonians choosing their fate, as de Gaulle was saying, Vive le Québec libre. This is Thibault Nagy, a U.S. diplomat, the former U.S. Undersecretary at the Bureau of African Affairs at the U.S. Department of State. Today, he's back at the Department of State in another capacity. This is what he said. This is a tacit reminder to the people of the Southern Cameroons. France is not your friend. I'm not the only one saying it. Even on the international scene, it is known. Anyone falling to the antics of France, don't blame anyone. That's what Thibault Nagy again says in this quote. That was on May 20th. He said, May 20, 1972, Cameroon's president entered the Anglophone-Francophone Federation to force a unitary state dominated by Francophones. The after effects of that mistake are evident today in the year-long violence and Ambazonian struggle for justice and equity. They will have it. He says with emphasis that the people of the Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonian struggle for justice and equity, will be a successful one. He says they will have it. They will have it. The world knows. The world knows that getting into any kind of experiment again with La République du Cameroon will be the worst ever mistake. Perhaps some among us to calling themselves federalists, unionists, or whatsoever, are the only ones that don't know. Like people of Ambazonia, we have to be wise. Like I said, the only time your prime minister, head of government, goes out is to do this. Look at. As you can see there, that is Joseph Jongute. Again, that's the only time he goes out. I said the only time he has an opportunity to speak is when they send him out to say one useless thing or the other against his own people. And in this post, Mimi Mefo says, the Cameroon government has claimed that the judicial proceedings against Ambazonian separatist leaders abroad are the product of its diplomatic efforts. Without specifying the countries or individuals involved, the government stated that its diplomatic initiatives have led to the disruption of separatist activities. Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Jongute revealed during an evaluation of the achievements from the Major National Dialogue, which aimed to resolve the crisis in the Anglophone regions. That is all. While the real man, while the real head of government, while the real Mbombo is out there inspecting projects, inaugurating some, and cutting or launching, placing foundation stones at others, a lunatic is there. All his own he's going to do is seek attention by showing just how much he can fight to sink his own people. My dear people of Ambazonia, I guess I don't have to emphasize a lot that the French gimmicks are gimmicks, and nobody should fall to those antics. We have come a long way. We can never draw back. We only have to keep forging on. My people of Ambazonia, we have to forge on. We have to forge on until we get to where we are headed. Freedom land. Absolute independence. Never forget that. I want to thank all of you who found time to be on this broadcast, especially those of you on Ground Zero. I know we're ending now. It's about 5 to 6 minutes gone past 1 a.m. I want to thank you for finding time to stay up and be part of this broadcast. Of course, do the needful, share the link and share as much as you can so as many people as possible have the opportunity to share in this discussion. Thank you very much. It was nice being with you, and I'll be back.